What's up, guys? We are back with another video, and today I'm going to talk about how the Mavericks have been really struggling today, and it's going to be a rantish type of video. Not really a lot of highlights or photos in this video, just really me being just talking to the camera, just ranting about some of the bad spots in the Mavs season this year, which there have been a lot because they are 8-13 and 13 in the 13th seed in the Western Conference, so they've been pretty abysmal this season. So I'm going to talk about that and all the reasons why I think they have been bad and maybe a couple ways to fix it. I am no GM, I'm no coach, I'm just a really supportive fan that loves basketball, so I don't have the answers, but I'm going to talk about the problems and maybe some solutions to fix it. So if you like that type of content, like and sub on the video if you haven't already. Let's get right into it. Now, before I just start going in on the Mavs, I want to talk about some stuff that's just been out of their control with some of their losing this season. They lost Josh Richardson, Dorian Finney-Smith for a big chunk of the season, and haven't had Maxi Kleber for a really long time. Those are three really good role players for our team, and a lot of people that weren't expecting to have big roles this season have had to step up into those roles, and that may be one of the reasons why we're losing a little bit more than I thought we were this year. Also, Kristaps Porzingis barely has played at all, and when he has played, he's been pretty bad. So I'm gonna chalk that up to injury, but we're gonna talk about Kristaps later for sure. But I'm gonna chalk that up to injury right now because he's just coming back. But he just doesn't look like the same player. Defensively, doesn't look like he's giving the same effort. He looks like he's hacking more than usual, so that may be because of injury and getting his wind, but who knows. So those are 5 really big players to what we have going on. But Luka has been there the whole time. He's been there the whole time basically, besides a couple games of rest. So we've had our superstar, and if I'm not trying to blame Luka because Luka's been playing really good in the stretch that we've been losing. And besides Bradley Beal, has probably had to carry his team the most during this little stretch of losing. But the biggest thing that I dislike about the Mavs right now I'm getting into just going in, I already talked about the disadvantages stuff. Now I'm just going to talk about why they've been bad. And one of the biggest reasons is they just can't close out games. Since Luka's been there, they've never been good at closing out games. I don't know why. It just seems like they always let it go at the end, and it has lost 2 very, very close games to the Suns these last 2 games, and Chris Paul ate them alive the first game and the second game, and Devin Booker iced it off. Luka had a chance to win it, and it just seems like defensively we crumble, offensively we don't shoot well at the end, and it just, I don't know, man. It's something about those end of the games, and Luka hasn't been a very clutch player since he's come into the league, although he hit that big shot against the Clippers when Kristaps was there. Besides that, he hasn't had a lot of clutch moments, and he's kind of crumbled a couple times in the clutch in his career, but he's young, and I'm not trying to blame everything on Luka because we'd be the 15th seed. Like bottom, like not even close to anything. Like the worst team in the league if it wasn't for Luka Doncic. So I have a lot of appreciation for Luka Doncic, what he's done to this team, but if he's this generational talent and the person I picked as the MVP candidate for the season, who I thought was going to be the MVP, he has to step up a little bit more in the clutch moments. He's perfectly fine most of the game. Sometimes he has his inefficient nights, but he impacts the game on so many levels, and it just seems like when we get in those clutch moments, the impact is not there as much, and that's what I've noticed. Also, getting off of Luka, the role players that has been there the entire time, like Tim Hardaway. Dang, that's really the only notable role player that's been there. Dwight Powell a little bit, but really Tim Hardaway and Josh Richardson is who I want to hone in on right now, although Josh Richardson is just coming back from COVID protocols. Those 2 are not even secondary ball handlers in my opinion. They're not good secondary ball handlers. We have no good ball handlers aside from Luka Doncic and Jalen Brunson, and sometimes Coach Rick Carlisle doesn't put Brunson in for some odd reason, and I think he should get more minutes because of this reason. It just seems like Lucas always has the ball in his hands, and he gets tired and fatigued, and maybe that's the reason why he's not good at the end, because he has to do so much just to keep his team right there. But at the end, it just seems like he just runs out of energy. He's just not the same player. I don't know if that's because of pressure or because of what I'm talking about with just getting fatigued and things like that. And I feel like before I saw the notification about Bradley Beal wanting to stay in Washington, even though he's been pouting and stuff like that the last couple games, I thought it'd be a really good idea to try to go out and get Bradley Beal, because he can be a really good, not secondary ball handler, another primary ball handler for Luka, and Luka can do some stuff with his body a little bit more like LeBron does, getting the post up these small guards that are on him and things like that. And I think we'd really benefit from a really good another really good primary ball handler, and it could help Luka's load so he can go and finish those games like we know he can, like he did in that Clippers game. But it just seems like he just runs out of energy, and that's probably the primary reason why Tim Hardaway Jr. and Josh Richardson are not reliable, even secondary ball handlers. So that's one of my other big reasons why I think the Mavs are struggling right now. Now I want to talk about Rick Carlisle. Now, Rick Carlisle has never really been on the chopping block as long as I've been into my fandom with the Dallas Mavs. I've been a Dallas Mavs fan my whole life, but me being into and focused with the Dallas Mavericks, I've never heard Rick Carlisle being on the hot seat or anything. But I've never been a big fan of Rick Carlisle, and I'll tell you why. I've been to a lot of Mavs games, and one of the biggest things I've noticed the last couple years when I've really been an avid NBA fan is that his rotations are very subpar at times, especially when we're playing these really good dynamic duos. And I give you a quick example. Last year when they faced the Clippers, I don't know if it was the first or second time or whatever they played them, but Kawhi Leonard and Paul George were in the game, and Doc Rivers took Kawhi Leonard out mid-first quarter and then took Paul George out in the end of the quarter. And they were still in the game. And Luka Doncic and Kristaps Porzingis both played the entire first quarter, and they both had to sit out most of the second quarter. And Paul George and Kawhi Leonard went back in the game in the second quarter and took like a 15-point lead. And that really blew my mind, because the thing about coaching is you have to play chess with the other coach. You can't just be stubborn in your ways and like, this is going to be my rotation. And then Kawhi goes out middle of first quarter, Paul George finishes out the first quarter. Now it's really tight because Luka and Kristaps were in while Paul George was in at the end. And it's tight at the end of the first quarter. Now Kristaps and Luka's out, and we've never had a great bench at, in the Luka era. So they go on a run, 15-point lead. Now Luka and Kristaps can't get it back in the game when they come back, and they can't get it back close enough for Luka to take over at the end. That was just one example that really blew my mind with how Rick Carlisle's rotations were. I know that's like maybe a small thing, but it really isn't a small thing, but it's a hard thing to notice. But that's what I noticed that game. That Doc Rivers underratedly, low-key, just outcoached Rick Carlisle, like outcoached him by so much that game. And I feel like that probably happens a lot. I'm not gonna lie, before these last couple games I haven't watched a lot of Mavs games this year. I've just been keeping up with the stats and watching highlights and stuff, but these last couple games I've been kind of watching a little bit more. And the rotation thing, like I said it again, he just gets outplayed with rotations, and he's never been on the hot seat. And I'm not calling for his job, because I never do that, and I want him to be successful. But another thing that has been bad this year is their offense, and that's what they honed on. They were the best offense of all time last year, and that was their bread and butter, their offense. And I don't know if this is the reason why, but they've been bad on offense this year. And a big person that's been gone this year that was here last year is Stephen Silas. Stephen Silas is now the head coach with the Houston Rockets and has been doing good after the James Harden saga. Anyways, he was there for when the offense was the best all time. Luka was playing insane, and the role players, even more important, were playing great and hitting their shots. Not saying Stephen Silas leaves and they stop hitting shots, but the offense is more stagnant this year, and maybe that's because Stephen Silas is not there anymore, and Rick Carlisle is not a great offensive coach. That's what I'm trying to say. So maybe that is the reason why the offense is not running as smoothly this year, and Stephen Silas is an underrated piece to how good the Mavs were last year on offense. And I don't think a lot of people think about that. Last thing I want to talk about is Kristaps Porzingis. Now, Kristaps Porzingis is a very polarizing player in my eyes, because he has so much potential, being 7'3" and being able to shoot and things like that. But it just seems like he's always out for the big moments since he's been with the Mavs. When Luka needed him most, he was hurt. And I'm not saying that's his fault. It just seems like he's always injured. He's always hurt. Even that game he got ejected. He's just always out in the biggest moments, it seems like, since he's been with the Mavs. And I know that's only been one season, but there's been a lot of big moments, a lot of moments when we needed Kristaps. He averaged 30-10 in the bubble, and he wasn't there with Luka at the end of the series. And if he wasn't in that game when he didn't get ejected, and after that didn't get hurt, the Mavs would have won that series, I promise you. And I'll die on that, hill. I promise you they would have won that series. And he's that good of a player. But sometimes, in like this year, and I don't know if he's just working himself into shape, like I said earlier in the video, but he just doesn't look like himself, and he's shooting even less at the basket than he did last year. And he's shooting worse from the three-point line, even though he's shooting more. Well, more volume probably means you're going to shoot less percentage, but he just doesn't look like the same player, and he doesn't look like the same defensive player, because he is known to be a really good rim protector and a really good defender, and he hasn't been that this year at all. He's been getting destroyed by Sam on the defensive end, and that's not win or anything. I think that's just effort. I can give the win part to the offensive end, but at least be on defense. You're still 7-3. You can still block shots, but he hasn't been doing that. He's been getting fouls. He had more fouls than points one time at one point in that Suns game. That's just not acceptable. You're supposed to be our second best player, and that's why I can't get mad at Luka for not being his greatest self, because he's still almost an all-star starter. We have a lot of expectations for Luka, and maybe we have unrealistic expectations for Luka, because it is his third year, and he is perennially going to be an all-star starter, almost unanimously voted to be an all-star starter most likely this year. He's that good, but we still want him to be better, and I feel like he can be a little bit better, but what can he do? I was watching through Ryan podcast, and Pierre said, what can he do? He averaged 40-point triple-double. Like, he can't do that. He averaged a 30-point triple-double last year, and he's averaging like 29, 9, and 9 this year, and that's not that big of a gap from last year. How much more can Luka do? One thing I know he can do is get better at his three-point shot, but besides that, he's being a better defender this year. I don't know how much better Luka Doncic can get, and that's scary, because we are still not a good team, and he's a top 10 MVP candidate and most likely all-star starter. That's very scary. We have such a special player on our team, and we're still 13th in the Western Conference, and everybody had higher expectations for this team this year, so that's why I'm very disappointed in how good we have been this year. Alright guys, that's all I got for you guys today. This type of content, like and sub on the video if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys next time.